I'm sorry that we're not together in the classroom, and a virtual classroom is not like having you all there. Um, I want to give you a video because each week I'm going to be setting up an assignment and I'll deliver instructions with the video for you embedded in the Google Classroom so that you can access it when you're ready to work. So this week we're going to be playing a little bit with painting with materials that you have around the house. So you're going to have two options, and I will embed two videos for you to look at. You can either paint with coffee or you can paint with tea. Here you can see my setup. The things that you'll need is you'll need a paintbrush and you'll need a pencil. And here I have some coffee. And in this one, I have some tea. So I used a black tea, but a green tea could work. If you wanted to substitute, if you have like Kool-Aid at home, you could mix a colored Kool-Aid with water. But basically, you just want something that's going to give you some pigment. So you can see here the tea is a much warmer tone, whereas the coffee is a cooler tone. And so what I did is I painted down one time, and I did 5 marks for each. And then I went and I did a second time over the next ones, and then a third time, a fourth time, and then a fifth time. And you can see that you can get a range of different values as you continue to layer the color on top of it. You are going to get darker values if you wait for the first layer to dry. Okay, so I'm going to now switch to my drawing, and I will show you how to start layering these colors. So the object that I chose is this cast iron bear, and it has like a nice texture to it and some highlights and shadows. And what I did is I did a sketch of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference my actual object. I'm going to put it over to the side here. And I'm going to go in, because I found that the tea were nice warm tones, I'm going to start painting it with tea. Now, if you have a little coffee and tea, you could combine both of them. So essentially what you want to do is just draw your, make your drawing so it fills the page so you have some good scale. And then you're going to come in and you can start laying some values into your piece. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to think about where are my darkest values, and I'm going to just start painting those in right away, because I know in order to really build them up, I am going to have to add a few different layers there. But you can see that the color goes down with the brush, and I'm starting to just draw with this pigment from the coffee. I guess I don't know if it's technically a pigment, but with the color from the coffee to, or in this case, the tea, to start laying in some of the values that I see, right? So I'm just going to come in there and I'm going to just start laying my first washes of color. So I'm going to come around, get the contour, come in here, drop in that shadow, because I know that that's going to be a pretty dark value. And I'm looking at my object to see where do I see darker values, but also what are the directions that I'm seeing. So I'm looking when the fur is on the side here, that it's sort of going in a downward motion as it's coming into the face. So I'm going to start taking some of those gestures and trying to feed them into my drawing. And I'm actually going to lift my object up here so I can see a little bit better, because then I can see the highlights and the shadows falling on it a little bit more. So I'm just coming in and I am simply going to try and add values where I see them in the object and reinforce my drawing by coming in and using the tonality of the tea to start adding details. So I'm going to start with a light wash here. Now you can have a thing of water here if you want to make your washes a little bit more light, but if you continue to use the brush, you can see that it sort of diffuses a little bit as it goes around. So I'm going to come in here. Now that I'm holding the object, I can see different values. So I can see now when I'm looking at it with the light shifting this way that I have significantly darker tones right around the eye, right on the nose, and then coming around on the teeth. Okay, so I'm going to just let that come in there, and then I'm going to try and get some darkness in the eyes to sort of fill it in. Okay. All right, so this is my first layer. I'm going to let it dry, and then I will come in and add a second layer. But letting it dry is going to allow for really layering the tone and getting darker, richer values. So I'm going to just stop with my first layers, and I will continue to add layers after it dries. Okay, so my first layer is now dry. And again, I'm going to have my object here, my reference object, so that I can consider where the highlights, shadows, and texture are going to go. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start adding my second layer. So I see that there's darkness here. Okay. And I see short brushy textures over here. So you can really start exploring pattern a little bit, right? And put down different types of strokes. And that's going to give it a little bit more variation of mark and give it a little bit more visual interest. So I'm going to come in here and come down here and add a little bit more there. Outline those circles. And I really want to, the eye lid, I really want to emphasize the lids because it's going to make it more expressive. Because when I look in my at my actual object, I see that there's shadow around it and then under it, right? And then around the lids. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to do that same thing over to the eye here, trying to look at where I see different values. I'm going to come in here and I can see that this is sort of raised up a little bit. So I'm going to come in there, pull that down, and I'm really going to try and go in and give that nose a bit more to try and really darken it up. Here, and then come in. So I've got that layer dry. You can see I'm starting to get some darks around the eyes, especially where I concentrated a little bit more T, and I'm starting to get some darkness on the nose. So I'm going to just continue to go in and I will add more dark. All right, so coming around the eyes again. So everywhere that you want it to be darker, you want to layer it up. Oops, I think I just switched from coffee to tea. Okay, here we go. Sorry, let's be consistent there. Okay, so again, I'm going to come back around the nose because I want to give it a little bit more darkness. I'm going to come around the inside of the mouth here. Okay, some of the teeth. All right. And just come in there and continue to build. What I want to do is I want to look for, I can see that there's a change of the plane here. And so I want to try and make it look like this part is in front. So I'm going to try and concentrate a little bit of shadow around the nose. And so I am actually taking some time to look at my object and figure out what it's doing. And you can see, like, when it gets puddles, your lines are going to be a little bit less clear. So it's better to probably use a little bit less on your brush than I used right there. But we'll continue to add these layers in here. Okay. So I want to come down around the eye and eye there. Put a little more definition down the center of the face and some texture in the ears. The thing about pooling it, though, is because there's more tea there, it will dry a little bit darker as it dries down. It's just going to take a little bit longer to dry, as well as it's a little bit more fluid, so it might be harder to get a super sharp line because, you know, wet next to wet runs. So like if you have two lines next to each other, they may converge and make a bigger mark than what you intended. So it's good to go a little slow and then just let things dry. So again, I'm just going to let this dry again. I might come around the teeth first just to add a little layer of darkness there around those two teeth. And then I'm going to let it dry again. And then come back into it. But you can see it's getting significantly darker as I go into it. All right.